I'm Ian O'Neill.
I'm Caoilte Barra.
I'm Andy Stevenson, and you're listening to the Auld Triangle.
We're an Irish MMA podcast brought to you by SevereMMA.com.
From amateurs to pros, regional shows to Irish fighters abroad, we're all over Irish MMA.
If that sounds like your cup of tea, hit subscribe, and now let's start the episode.
Yes, indeed. We are back for episode 3 of the Auld Triangle. And today I'm joined by the usual suspects, my partners in crime, Mr. Andy Stevenson, Mr. Caoilte the Barra. We're fresh off the national championships up at SBG HQ. Recording this on the day the finals had taken place. Absolutely fantastic tournament. A great 3 days of action. We had some gold medalists that were crowned the first ever champions, and we're here to get straight into it. The lads were up there at SBG HQ for the couple of days. I was watching from afar here in Canada. Absolutely phenomenal 3 days of action, lads. Well done to IMMAF and to everybody involved getting the tournament off. Ran so smoothly. And credit to everyone involved for doing that. I mean, it was a really great 3 days of action, and a great to be a part of a historic event as well. Maybe I'll go to you, Andy, first. What are your thoughts?
How the hell are we doing, though, first? Jesus, are we all knackered?
We're all pretty tired, all right. You guys were doing traveling and interviews and everything like that. I was up at early hours in the morning just to look at it. But I mean, it's easy for me. I just hopped out of my bed and hopped into the next room.
The sweet dulcet tones of Ian O'Neill coming live from Saskatchewan.
That's it, true Zoom. Waxing lyrical on the broadcast with the Guts and Glory boys, with the Energized boys, and a few others as well, with yourselves too, of course. It was a pleasure to be a part of the broadcast and a pleasure to be part of the tournament itself. I mean, it was a great 3 days, lads. I really enjoyed it. It went down so well, ran so smoothly, and like I said, everyone should feel really proud of it. It's in the books now. We have our squad heading over to the Super Cup figured out. We have a couple of new gold medalists, new national champions. Andy, what was your thoughts on maybe we'll just take it from day one all the way up to the finals day. On day one, we've seen lots of actions, lots of finishes. Was there any particular highlight that stuck out to you for day one?
Oh God, you put me in the spot here. To be honest, there's so many fights I can't even remember which day was which at this point. I'm going to need you to dig me out here and maybe Caoilte, you can take that one first while I collect myself and figure out which one even was day one.
We were the one day we weren't there as well was day one, but day one, the highlight for me that day, I'm pretty sure it was Tristan Barnett. His debut came out. We all thought he was going to be this really slick striker, which he is, but he showed us he could grapple. You could see he was doing that work with Lee Hammond. He pulled off an armbar, and he really stood out to me that day. And obviously, how could we forget Keith Keogh, that Imanari choke? Unbelievable. That was it was a work of art, and he called it the Keto Plata afterwards. He was buzzing, and he really stood out, and he was kind of stole the show for that day. I must admit. What about you guys? What do you think? Yeah,
I was going to mention Keith Keogh's submission as well with the Imanari choke. It was like absolute wizardry on the mat. Everyone was like scratching their heads and wondering what went on there. We finally figured it out. It was put down as an Imanari choke, but really fantastic submission there from Keith Keogh. Another one that stood out to me on day one really was Lee Mccord. In the welterweight fight when he took on Ethan Gearan. Ethan went over, had a very good world championships and was highly touted coming into the welterweight division here. Lee McGill went in there and got him out of there with some lovely ground and pound to advance. But I mean, there was plenty of action in day one, plenty of finishes and stuff like that.
I finally got day one up on my tapology here, because Jesus, I have the memory of a sieve. Andrew Barrett had another. He stormed through Aidan Fagan. That was his. You know, he had one finish and 2 decisions en route to gold. And Jesus, Andrew Barrett he's come out of nowhere for me. If you haven't watched the interview I did with, and I'm not saying that because I did the interview with him, but Andrew Barrett can cut a promo like no other man in Irish MMA. The king of hell. The king of hell. Andrew Barrett. Go watch that on SevereMMA YouTube right now. My God, Andrew Barrett's quickly becoming one of my favourite fighters in Irish MMA.
Absolutely brilliant interview. I mean, he like you said, he cut 4 or 5 promos and just brought the heat with that. I was fired up. I felt like I wanted to run about 10k after this.
I'm pretty sure he's already on a plane over to Russia to take on the entire country there.
Exactly, yeah. They're going to send him over to the Super Cup and nobody else, and he'll probably take the prize money himself. But the King of Hell is truly on the scene, and we'll probably talk a little bit more about Andrew as we'll scoot over to day 2, where, you know, the 3 of us were on the desk for the majority of the day here together. We saw all the action live. We were commentating on it, and you know, plenty of talking points in day 2 as well. Maybe I'll scoot it over to you, Caoilte, for a couple of your highlights on day 2.
Day 2 was phenomenal. There was a bit of, when we walked in, there was a bit of tension in the room. It was very quiet when it all started out, but wow, what a day of fights. There's so many highlights, but I'll just give 1 or 2. I have to mention, kicking off the day, Jamie Abbott-Bissett, like, goes up a weight class and just shines. Looks incredible. Like, he looks so sharp, and got that rear naked choke. And yeah, he was a real standout then. I think the other one for me then would have been Solomon Simon. He had a bit of a tough time with that in Abu Dhabi at the Worlds, but he came in, looked really good, kind of he's very chilled out, and he's very chilled out in the cage, and he's a very good striker, but he showed us his grappling, landed some very good ground and pound, and managed to get stoppage.
Yeah, like we were talking about Solomon before that fight on the broadcast, and we were mentioning how great his striking skills were, and we were wondering if we were going to see any grappling from him. Like, I mean, we maybe focused a little bit too much on the striking skills he possesses, because he really went in there against Jack Thorne and showcased some great grappling in that fight. Had a beautiful body lock takedown, kind of a slam in round 1, and just really dominated and went on to get that second round ground and pound. You know, we saw Andrew Barrett again against Frank Mir, Andy. That was his second fight in 2 days, and you know, he really impressed in that fight as well.
Yeah, you know, just the intensity that Andrew Barrett brings is scary. It's scary. So, you know, another great performance from him, and a clear decision win from there against Frank Mir. Moving up the card, I suppose, the next one. So, Colin Maher was in the corner for his brother Frank, and then straight into the cage to face Conor McCarthy, and what was a contentious decision, caused a lot of controversy, and also probably pissed off Colin Maher a little bit. I interviewed him after he won gold today, and you know, what a performance, what a performance really from Colin Maher to come in and, you know, silence the doubters essentially, because I thought he was the clear winner today. And you know, whatever way you want to argue, look, I went back and watched that fight between Conor and Colin, and I still had it for Conor, but I would say that on the second watch, the first round was a much clearer round for Colin Maher, in my opinion. And there was, you know, the second round, depending on how you look at it, I personally would have favoured the striking. Colin will not like to hear that again if he's listened, so apologies once again, just my opinion. But you know, from Colin Maher's perspective, he has every right to think that he won that fight also. And what a performance then. He went in the next day to battle through such what looked like a really painful injury on the final day. I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit here, but wow, maybe we'll park that for the moment and talk about Colin a little bit more in a bit. But yeah, I mean, that was another interesting fight and a noteworthy fight, I suppose. And then, yeah, moving up the card, Cameron Clements, but the last fight of the day, rear naked choke finish, and Cameron Clements has had a great tournament there this year again, so lots to be looking at here on day 2.
Yeah, also we had Dan O'Sullivan on day 2. He took on Tristan Barnett, what was another really close fight as well. And, you know, Dan had a very good IMMAF World Championships as well, and came in, and, you know, Tristan was really good on day one. This was a close fight as well. Tristan kind of came in and won round one. Dan kind of took control, maybe with a little bit of grappling in round two. And round three, you know, Tristan was looking a little bit tired with all the grappling exchanges, and Dan kind of just took control in that fight. And you know, he did enough to advance by unanimous decision, and Dan moved on to take on Cameron Clements in the finals. And we'll move on to the finals day now. And we opened up with the Nadine Abou-Bissett versus Lisa Houston fight, which was at strawweight. You know, Nadine Abou-Bissett, world champion at atomweight, she moved up to take on Lisa Houston here. Really, Caoilte, a tough ask for Lisa Houston coming in here, really, in her first competitive amateur fight. But, you know, she didn't do all that bad at all. She had Nadine Abou-Bissett in a little bit of trouble with an armbar earlier on, and kind of clipped Nadine as well.
Yeah, like, she put on a very good account for herself for her first amateur fight. Like, she's done quite a bit of grappling from what I know. Hasn't had a full contact like kickbox or anything like that before, so this is her first time getting punched in the face properly in an actual fight where there's, you know, full MMA fight. Fair play to her. She looked good, and look forward to seeing her again. It's no easy task going in against a world champion. So credit where it's due.
Really tough ask, isn't it? You know, yeah, I mean, I'll be fully honest here. I'm not going to beat around the bush. The matchmaking made me a little bit uneasy, and I know, I suppose the counter argument is that it's the beauty of the tournament is that, you know, whoever you get matched up against, you get matched up against. How did I say that? However you get matched up against, you get matched up against. Anyway, that's the, you know, the one argument. But on the other hand, you know, Lisa Houston has literally never fought. She did give a good account of herself for someone who has never had a full contact fight before, her first MMA fight, and going in and facing a world champion. Like, on one hand, there's one argument to say, well, you know, isn't this great? You know, you have the opportunity to go in against a world champion. But it made me a little bit uneasy when I saw that matchmaking, and that you know, you're really being fed into the sharks here. And I know she didn't get hurt too badly, but it was, you know, kind of what we expected. A first round stoppage for Nadine Abou-Bissett, who again looked fantastic. So, you know, fair. I mean, take nothing away from Lisa Houston. I thought it was a good showing. It just made me a little bit uneasy, that matchmaking.
See, I completely agree. I've said to you while we were there as well. But I think it also leaves the opportunity for future that you can, like, if you look at the amateur boxing setup, you've got the novice, intermediate, senior, and then you've got the elites. Just using that as an example, it kind of looking for ahead in the future, it has the there's, I guess, the opportunity there to maybe have these type of categories for, like, novices, let's say, if people who've never had a fight before, and that way they're not being thrown straight into the deep end for their debut in a tournament like this. So maybe there's scope for that in the future, but
yeah, I suppose that's a difficulty that I might have, in that, like, you know, look at Nadine Abou-Bissett. She didn't even have anyone to fight in her atomweight division, so she was moving up just to get a fight. So it's and especially on the women's side of things, it's a lot more difficult to find fighters in these weight classes. So, you know, it's not an easy fix. I'm not saying, oh, like, this is IMMAF or the worst for doing this or anything like that. It's just, you know, unfortunately, this is the way it played out.
Yeah, and I'm sure that, like, it will change in years to come with more people joining up for it as well. And, you know, hopefully we do see more talent stacked divisions as the tournament progresses. And we move on maybe to the women's bantamweight final between Carrie Vernon versus Shinee Neuron, which was one of the fights of the day, if not one of the fights of the tournament. You know, we spoke about Carrie Vernon a couple of times here on the podcast already. Shinee Neuron also very successful on the amateur scene as well. She picked up a medal at the World Cup and was at the World Championships and stuff like that. What did you think of that fight, Caoilte?
Fantastic. I loved it. Stole the show for me. And it was even worse. I was on the Lewis watching it on my phone, and I was like, I was raging. Bus turned up late, couldn't get there to watch it live, and I'm gutted over it. But yeah, barn burner of a fight. It was close, very close, and it's exactly what I expected. I expected a lot of striking between the two of them, and they delivered. credit to the two of them. It was fantastic. It was a fantastic fight. I know Shinee was a little bit disappointed with the decision. I think she thought she did enough to win, and that's fair enough. It was a very good fight. It was close. I couldn't score it. And but fair play to Carrie. Considering she's only in the sport, I think, a year, and she's got all this experience behind her, and now she's booked a spot for the Super Cup. So congratulations to her.
I thought it was very, very promising for both fighters. As you said, a razor close decision, and I thought Shinee looked very improved. I know, not to be the fun police here, but you know, Shinee Noonan is 0-3, and she still is looking for that first amateur win. But she had a great fight, you know, a very entertaining fight last time out against Sarah Elliott Sheridan, and it was a tough fight for her. Sarah Elliott Sheridan was winning pretty much throughout that fight, and I think that it was the third round, it became a bit of a slugfest. But I thought Shinee Noonan showed great improvements here. I thought her head movement was very good. I thought that the combinations she was throwing punches and bunches and finishing each combo with the leg kick most of the time that were doing damage. In the third round, it looked to me that a little bit that Carrie's straight shots were just kind of causing a little bit more damage and having a little bit more of effect, and maybe that's what the judges saw. I don't know. I wouldn't have been able to pick a winner between the two, but yeah, as you said, like really, really promising stuff to see both of them in there.
Yeah, no, Sinead has been in two close fights, her last two as well. Yeah, so, and this was a really close one as well. As we move on to the junior bantamweight between Jake Ngai and Aaron Henry, you spoke to Jake after his fight. He's like, speaking of people competing for the first time, it was the first time that Jake competed in mixed martial arts as well, although he has been training in jiu-jitsu since he was very young and has kind of slowly integrated himself into the amateur scene in MMA. Just give me your thoughts on that, Andy.
Yeah, I mean, he's only a young lad. He's only a teenager, and training out of Satori BJJ. Yeah, I thought he looked quite good. He dealt with a number of attacks from his opponent, and really, this is you just want to see him get in there and have a bit of experience. I'm not really looking to see anything. I don't think we need to dissect him too much. Just, it was great to see him get in there, and now I hope to see him get a bunch more fights in the next couple of years and just learn the sport, really. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's I think we could fall into the trap of analysing and over-analysing these young fighters coming up a little bit too much sometimes. So for me, I'm happy to just say, hands off, let's just go ahead and fight for the next 3-4 years, and then we'll see how you are then.
Yeah, very composed performance is what I meant. And it's kind of the level of fighters we are seeing coming through right now. Jake has said he's been competing, I think, in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu since the age of 6, so that level of competition from a very young age can only transform over quite well when into the MMA amateur ranks as well. As we move on to the junior welterweight, where SBG Tullamore's Jordan Scully picked up a really good win over Marco Cardillo. Caoilte, Jordan, really dominant performance, really good performance here. We were even saying, I think, even on the message group, that Jordan might have even made a few waves in the seniors this year, but Jordan is a real good talent and put on a real good performance here.
It's fantastic. He looked really good in there. I was really impressed. He looked good in his win at the World Championships as well. Really, he stood out that day he fought, and then even the one he lost in the World Championships, he looked fantastic. And I was expecting him to come in and put on a really good performance, and he did so. But you know what? That celebration afterwards, the energy, I loved it. I was like, you could tell it meant so much. And he hopped on the cage. I was buzzing. Jesus, it was class.
Yeah, and he still has 2 more years at the junior level. He's only 18, so he has 2 years of eligibility. So he just seems like a really lovely kid, and I think he's in very safe hands there with Ciaran Davern.
Yeah, indeed. Not to be outdone by his sister, Jamie Abbott Bissett went in and moved up a weight as well to take the senior bantamweight title with a win over Carl McConway. Andy, you spoke with him after the fight as well. There's going to be plenty of medals heading back towards the Abbott Bissett household right now after the tournament tonight.
Yeah, man. Jamie Abbott Bissett's a little savage, to be honest. Looking at how just the striking exchanges at the start, Jamie was landing some ferocious shots. And Carl McConway is a really experienced competitor, and to be fighting, not only fighting up a weight class, but to be fighting at, you're walking in as a flyweight. It's not like he bulked up 10 pounds and walked in there, but the power, the speed was there, obviously, because he's, you know, a smaller guy and he's quick, but the power transitioned, you know, seamlessly. So he was getting the better of all the striking exchanges. He, you know, maybe he had a tougher second round. Definitely, he was putting us back for a while, but I was just really impressed by Jamie. And yeah, I mean, that family, like, I'm really excited to see how they continue to progress over the next couple of years, because they're just, you know, they're clearing house at the moment. So yeah, and it was absolutely hilarious to see him puke in the only bin that was on camera on the live stream after. Poor old Jamie Abbott-Bissett. You could have chose any bin in SBG, but you chose the one being broadcast to the world. Unlucky, mate.
Yeah, that's look. He must run in the family as well, because Nadine was on with us the last episode. She's saying that she was had a little bit of an upset stomach before her fight at the Worlds as well. As we move on to the lightweight senior final between Andrew Barrett and Solomon Simon, a really good fight here. Two of the most experienced guys in the division, and I mean, Caoilte, that fight did not disappoint.
Not at all. Really enjoyed that from start to finish. They put on a fantastic performance. Andrew Barrett, then, like, what can you say? He fought every single day, and I think he's the only one who fought 3 days, and he then he comes out on top again. It was fantastic. Solomon looked very good as well. Had some good moments. It was a close fight. Don't get me wrong, it was a very close fight, but Andrew, fantastic performance, and really earned that gold. Indeed.
We spoke about Colin Maher in the semi-final, his close fight. There was no real doubt about this fight, Andy, against Jordan Fury in the welterweight senior finals. I mean, another good fight as well, close fight. But I think when the fight was over, there was no doubt that Colin Maher had done enough to get the win. And, you know, we seen him clasping his shoulder at the end of the round, and we seen that he was in pain. A really impressive performance to hand Jordan Fury his first loss in the amateur ranks.
Yeah, coming up against, you know, a highly touted prospect, amateur prospect in Jordan Fury, and Colin Maher just showed his experience in there. He showed his fight IQ. He showed his technical abilities more than anything, you know, to go in and get that injury. And he really did look in pain at the end of that first round. Like, it was so visible. And to just, you know, bite down on your mouth guard and just get the job done. For a guy, and, you know, speaking to him after, like, I know he was a little bit pissed off at you know, the commentary, us and the rest of the guys the previous day, because we had said, you know, we thought Conor McCarthy won. But what a performance, like, to come out and just prove everyone wrong, to be like, no, you know, I deserve my spot here, and I'm going to show you by going in and beating Jordan Fury now as well. It meant a lot to him when I was speaking to him after. You know, another great interview that he gave, and, you know, he obviously won't be able to, or more than likely won't be able to go over to the Super Cup now. He said he's done the other shoulder, so he's kind of familiar with the injury. But it'll be interesting to see. He talked about potentially going pro. He's been in it, I think we mentioned before, he's been an amateur since 2013. So, and you know, I wasn't like hoping anyone would win, but after he won, I was happy for him. I was really happy to, you know, it meant a lot to him, and it showed he was the #1 seed going into this, yet we were talking about the other guys. So he reaffirmed his status as the top dog in that division.
Yeah, indeed he did, you know, and he's got a lot of stuff going on. Obviously, he's a head coach and owner of SBG Clonmel. He's also a promoter as well. I think they have a promotion coming up soon, Caoilte, don't they?
Yeah, Premier FC 1. It's going to be the day after Bellator, actually. So he's, like, fair play to him. He's running the gym, he's fighting, he's cornering, and then he's bringing MMA back to Tipperary, if it was ever there before. I'm not too sure. But fair play to him, incredible. So he is so much on his plate, and he was saying to Andy, he got up at 4:30 in the morning to drive up to Dublin and then deliver performances like that while cutting weight. Like, fair play to him. He's a real veteran in the sport, like, at the amateur level and in Ireland in general. Like, so amazing for him. Very happy for him, and especially to, as you said, bite down and kind of battle through 2 rounds with a messed up shoulder and still come out with the victory. Incredible stuff.
Yeah, I have to agree with it. I think it was unbelievable by Colin Maher. I think, you know, it was a tough fight, and to do it with an injury as well, he just really impressed me. And, you know, Will Fury definitely has a brother in arms here now and putting Tip MMA on the map. And I'd like to see Colin Maher make that turn to professional. I know he spoke about it with you, Andy, and I think that would be a great move for him. And I'd be excited to see him fight in the professional ranks. As we move on to the last fight of the day, and that was the middleweight tournament championship between Cameron Clements and Dan O'Sullivan. And I mean, Andy, we were excited for this fight on the boot. We were on it, myself, yourself, and Caoilte were on the boot. We were excited to see how these two kind of grapplers, if you want to call them that. I know very well-rounded fighters, all right, but two of them have been known to lean on their grappling side. And I mean, there was a good matchup, and Dan had a great IMMAF's. Cameron Clements wasn't really happy with how his Worlds went, although he did go up against a top-level opponent at the Worlds. So, I mean, he came in and he made no doubt in this final. It was a really, really good performance, and probably one of the performances of the tournament overall, I'd say.
Yeah, from speaking to him, he just seemed like he wanted to show people what he's truly all about. Obviously, he picked up the loss in the IMMAFs, but I mean, he's fought 6 times already in less than a year, since last June, I think, was his amateur debut. He just looked really good. I was really impressed by his fight IQ, and, like, you know, just knowing exactly when to transition to look for a takedown, and then once he gets the takedown, he seems to be very proficient on the ground. You know, didn't choke out, but he submitted Dan O'Sullivan with a rear naked choke, 2 out of 2 rear naked chokes. And yeah, I mean, Cameron Clements is with full disclosure, like, with the amateur scene, there's so many fighters. Like, we're looking at the pros as well. We just can't know every single fighter on the scene. Even, you know, we're doing an Irish MMA podcast, and we feel certainly like we spend a lot of time looking at the scene. There's just so many fighters, and Cameron Clements, for me, was definitely one who has only kind of come to my attention recently, and he's certainly now, you know, he has my attention now. I'm going to be looking at Cameron Clements moving forward and seeing how his career at the amateurs, and then, you know, in time, if he transitions to pro, how that progresses.
Indeed, and we'll get a chance to see him too, I believe, at the Brave Super Cup as well. So, you know, that kind of brings us to an end, and in all the excitement of the nationals and stuff, I guess, you know, I forgot to announce we have 2 guests, not 1 but 2 Ciaráns today, and we're going to focus a bit more attention on 2 cards. That's the Bellator Dublin card that's coming up this Friday. Also, we have Cage Conflict 6, which is coming up on March 5th, and, you know, we're not going to deep dive too much into the Bellator card, and I think, you know, we're doing a full preview, and you'll be able to watch that over on SevereMMA YouTube channel. But I guess I just wanted to ask you guys a brief overlook at some of the Irish fighters on the card, and maybe I'll go to you first, Caoilte. Is there anything that's really standing out to you on the card, or anything that you're looking forward to before we'll be talking to Ciarán Clarke first? Obviously, he's on the card, and we can maybe talk about his fight a little bit later on. And but is there anything else that's standing out to you on this card?
Yeah, and that is Lee Hammond. Big fan of Lee Hammond ever since his IMMAF fights. Before I even started working with IMMAF, I was watching Lee Hammond in IMMAF. He was, like, it's hard not to know him. He was fantastic, and yeah, I'm really excited. He looked amazing. That is a pro debut as well, so I'm buzzing to see him in there, and it's good to see him get the spotlight like that. Outside of that, then, Danny Mccormack, always entertaining, and very excited to see her in there as well.
Indeed, you know, I spoke to Danny ahead of her fight too, and she's looking to go up and put on a really good fight against Stephanie Page. She wants to try and stand and bang with Stephanie, who is a really good striker in her own right. So I'm sure that fight is going to really entertain. Someone that you spoke to Andy before, his fight is Brian Moore. He'll take on Jornel Lugo. I'm delighted that Brian is getting the opportunity to fight on this Dublin card, but did a great interview with you as well, and I'm excited to see how that fight goes. What are your feelings on that fight?
Yeah, I can't wait to see Brian Moore back in action. Forget about the fight for a moment. In the interview I did with him, he spoke about his mental health and how he was basically having panic attacks. He couldn't sleep at all. You know, he was just in a really, really bad way over in Russia before his last fight. And he opened up in the interview and talked about how, you know, he started speaking to a therapist and working with a sports psychologist, and he just feels in a much better space. So, you know, according to Brian anyway, that has transitioned and translated over into his training and to his preparation for this fight. So he seems to be coming into this fight with a much more, you know, I guess, clear mindset, maybe the way to describe it. So, you know, taking on a guy, Jornel Lugo, finally a ranked opponent. You know, Jornel Lugo may not be a name that everyone knows, but he is ranked. I think he's number 9, if I'm not mistaken. So Brian has been Brian has earned these type of fights for a long time, and he always takes the toughest fight. He called for this fight with Jornal Lugo, so I'm really excited to see how he rebounds from that loss, and I'm just really excited to see Brian Moore back in action.
Yeah, me too. Like, I mean, anytime you watch Brian fight, you know you're going to be in for an entertaining fight, and I'm sure it's not going to be any different this time around either. We have Nathan Kelly also on the card. He's taking on Scott Bederson in the featherweight division. Looking forward to seeing Nathan there. Also making his debut is Dara Kelly, who's undefeated as an amateur. The SBG man is taking on Junior Morgan in a fight that was supposed to happen on the last Bellator Dublin card, but that fell through at the final hour. So hopefully that Dara gets the chance to make his debut there as well. But it would be amiss if we Peter Creeley as well against Kane Musa in the co-main event, and sure, that'll be an entertaining fight. Peter Creeley always brings the heat, always is in exciting fights. He's an absolute dog, and Kane Musa the same as well. That should be a good enough fight as well. But I guess before we round up and before we move over to the Ciarán Clarke interview, we have to talk about the people's main event, and that's Liam Mccord versus Sinead Kavanagh. And oh my goodness, this is a fight that I cannot wait to see. I mean, I've been thinking about this fight. I cannot wait to see how it unfolds. Two of the top featherweights in the world, in Leah and Sinead. A lot on the line. There's some title. The two of them are in the title picture, and a win here would be huge in getting forward and putting their name in the title mix. And we'll go to you, Andy, and just give your quick thoughts on this fight.
This fight is huge for women's MMA, for Irish women's MMA. PT Carroll just put out a great piece on RTE about kind of profiling Aisling Daly and her rise and how she came up in the sport, and to to look back from where the sport came from for women in Ireland with Pioneer and Aisling Daly to now where we've got Liam Mccord versus Sinead Kavanagh in one of the biggest spots on a massive card, with a middleweight title fight headlining it. I know they're not, as you said, like they're not the headline fight, but they are the people's main event, and I think everyone who has an interest in Irish MMA will be watching this. Sinead has an incredible story. It's been well documented about her, her time living homeless in Ireland to now fighting in front of 10,000 people in the Three Arena. And Liam Mccord, a single mother coming up, making her name in the sport, winning the IMMAFs, really getting a big push, and deservedly so, because she puts in, we've not seen Liam Mccord lose yet in the cage. She's undefeated. She works her ass off as far as promotion goes, and to get these endorsement deals to be put in these spots by Bellator, and that's why it's such a big fight, because on paper also, when you look at it, it's striker versus grappler. Like, even they will say it's striker versus grappler, even though they can both do, they can both strike, they can both grapple. That is how it's going to be. They've sparred with each other before, they've trained with each other before, they're familiar with each other, and now we're going to get to see who is the better fighter, at least on the night.
Absolutely. Caoilte, you must be excited for this fight the same as myself and Andy as well.
Of course, how couldn't you be? Forget about having a title fight in the main event and paying money to see that. This is the fight. You'd pay money to see this fight alone. It's worth the ticket money. It's incredible. I'm buzzing. These two are, like as Andy said, top of the division, title implications there, and it's a huge occasion for Irish MMA, women's MMA. It's incredible. I'm really looking forward to it, and that's all I have to say about it, I think.
Absolutely. I think you both spoke excellently about it too, and I just say it again, I can't wait for this fight. It's definitely the people's main event, and then we have Ciarán Clarke, who will take on Abou Tounkara in the featherweight division as well, and there's no better man to kind of talk about this fight than the man himself, Ciarán Clarke. So we'll take the time and we'll introduce our interview with Ciarán Clarke here ahead of his fight at Bellator 275.
And now we're joined by Ciarán Clarke, who's got a big fight coming up this week against Abou Tounkara at Bellator 275 in front of the Three Arena crowd. Ciarán, thanks for joining the show today.
Thanks for having me on, lads.
Yeah, so Ciarán, how we're a few days out from the fight now. How are you feeling ahead of it?
Yeah, feeling good, lads. The hard part's done, obviously. It's I suppose just going in there now and do the job, and feeling fit, healthy. Everyone's on point, the weight, everything else. So yeah, just looking forward to it.
Yeah, you had a tough fight last time out against Jordan Barton. A really, a gritty, hard fought victory. What did you learn from that fight?
What did I learn? I suppose skill wise, this one I'm planning to make it easier, obviously, but I wasn't, not that I was trigger shy, but I was, you know, I felt I had his range in there standing, you know, and I should have like let go a little bit more on the feet to like actually make the entries easier, if that makes sense. So I plan on doing that this time, definitely making it easier on myself, you know. But it was a tough fight, he was a tough opponent, and I knew he was dangerous as well. So, but I was delighted to get the win over him, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it was a massive moment in the Tree Arena. I can still picture you know, after you got the submission, jumping up in the cage and the crowd going absolutely buck wild. Are you itching to kind of experience that feeling once again next week?
To be honest, yeah, like I hope to make it easier, obviously, to fight this time.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's what made it, to be honest. It was because it was such a hard fought fight, back and forth, and to be able to get the choke in the last minute essentially, and then to find out after I was actually losing, which I thought was mental. I would have freaked out, to be honest. I thought the story of the fight was me winning and him, you know, having his moments, obviously, and they were big moments, and he was doing the damage in that. But I thought the story of the fight was me controlling them completely, and yeah, but he obviously had his moments with the catching me with the big shots. But I mean, I was always in there, and I was, you know, I mean, they were catching me alright, but it wasn't like hurt, if that makes sense, you know. Like the ones actually that were was the ones you didn't see, you know, like it was, you know, those elbows in the ground and stuff. But the big knee, the big up kick, or the you know, the punches or whatever, you know, obviously they were catching, but it wasn't that they were you know, really hurt me, if that makes sense. But yeah, I mean, I think that's what made it, to be honest. Just coming back from having a hard fought victory back and forth, you know, he was a good grappler as well, and you know, he got me back, and it was an exciting fight, you know, to go away. And I think I showed me character on that stage, you know. Obviously I had me, you know, tough fights on the amateurs, but nobody would have seen that, and it was great to actually show it on that stage and show Bellator themselves, and yeah, I think that's what made it special. And that moment, I don't think it'll probably, I don't know, who knows, you know, it could be the same story now and on Friday, you know, a tough fight and to come out and get the finish, or you know. But I mean, any night in the Tree Arena is a special night, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose you can't really have that big emphatic moment without the adversity that you came through. You know, he was landing some heavy shots, and it's an interesting point you made there about, you know, the what judges are looking for. So like, based on the criteria, the reality is that the damage is prioritized higher than, say, control. So like, does that make you look at your game and say, okay, it's all well and good me controlling the action in a certain area, but I have to be landing damage in order to be winning on the judges' scorecards?
Yeah, big time. That was another thing as well I learned from the fight, you know. You know, going into this one now, it's definitely going to be more, you know, getting to them positions. And not that I wouldn't be any like that anyway, but, you know, I'm going to prioritize that, you know, if that makes sense. So, you know, open up a little bit more, and, you know, it's all well and good controlling them, but yeah, as you said, like, I mean, they were prioritizing the damage there, and obviously the cuts and bruises were making you know, swaying the judges, obviously, you know. So I mean, that's something I definitely did learn, and I when I get into them positions, I'd be definitely looking to do some damage, obviously, you know. So
yeah, and we'll park that fight. That's done and dusted now. So you know, big win. Will you have you always bring a massive crowd down from Drogheda, from Yellow Batter. How many are coming down this week?
You're going to be looking at close to 300. I sold about 270 tickets plus, and I could have sold more this week. Obviously, you know, people last minute and stuff, but I got everything done the weeks before, so I was having no messing this time, because it's a lot of running around and stuff, and yeah, so close to 300 people there for me. Even people that didn't buy off me got and take the master early and stuff. So it's always a big crowd, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it, to be honest.
Always a boisterous crowd too. You know, what makes them so crazy? What makes them so vocal, I guess, in support of you?
I don't know. It's just the draw of the people, to be honest. I know I was having a conversation with one of my sponsors the other day, Granitops, and he's a local man himself from Drogheda, and I don't know. It's just that it's in us, you know. We everybody gets behind us, and the whole town, from the, you know, north and south, or the two sides of the town, we call each other the far side, but you know, we all just get behind each other. It's I don't know, it's that camaraderie feeling, you know what I mean? It's an extra reason for me to go in there and get the win. Like, it's you know, obviously I always say this, I'm in there doing this for myself, and you know, it's a journey along the way that you're in there on your own, and next minute you come along and people are saying this and that, you're doing the town proud, and you know, it's you're an inspiration for young people, and then it's kind of mad to hear, like, you know what I mean? Here I am just doing my day-to-day life, and next minute you have people on board like this and getting behind you. It's definitely an extra reason, you know.
We were chatting in the post-fight press scrum after the fight last time out, and you know, you were saying you really felt that you should have been on the main card. You know, again, no main card slot this time, but I see you are listed down as going to the media day. Were you disappointed that you didn't get the main card?
I think people kind of got that mixed up about me looking for the main card, but the story was there was a fight dropped the last time, and they had a chance. They bumped somebody up to the main card, and I thought I should have been bumped up. You know, I was the feature prelim, obviously, and I thought they should have bumped me up. So I'm not like disappointed. I'm not in the main card. All that's going to come. I just have to keep winning and, you know, focus on what's in front of me. So I'm not like, you know,
it was more in that moment for that specific card rather than an expectation in general, was it?
Exactly. I'm not going to be one of these looking for this and that. You know, the way it was just, I thought, you know, if it was the feature prelim and you know, it made sense, you know, someone Irish to be bumped up. That's the only thing. But yeah, no feelings about that this time. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I think I'm the feature prelim now, and I only found out actually off the interview with you and Lee that was on the media day. Actually, a few of the emails now off Bellator, it makes sense, to be honest. I didn't know that, so that's great as well to be going to the media day and that as well, you know.
Yeah, they'll be calling you Showtime Clarke now soon enough. And so looking, I suppose, at your career in general, you're 4-0, undefeated still now. How do you view, you know, what are your goals, I suppose, over the next couple of years? Are you eyeing up eventually getting towards that Bellator world title?
Do you know what? It's a hard question for me to answer because, you know, I'm so close out to another big fight, and I don't like looking too far ahead. I really, really don't, because I have a tough fight ahead of me now on Friday, and I have to get by that. And the way I look at it is, it's just beating the guy in front of me. I mean, you know, if I would like to get 3 fights this year. If I, you know, won them all, it'd be great, in a good position, 7-0. And I mean, I don't know, I'd love to fight abroad in the summer and definitely have a break from the, you know, don't get me wrong, there's no better place than the Sri Arena, but back to back like that, it's all the tickets selling, it's stressful, you know. The way, looking back, like the ones abroad were really enjoyable, you know. You had that like less pressure, I suppose. It's not even that, like, I mean, you like, you know, that you're at home.
Is it the opportunity to you know, to travel the world as well and have those experiences abroad?
Yeah, big time. I mean, when you're fighting internationally, you know, you feel it's you know, you feel that it's worldwide. You know, you get that kind of feeling as well. And I'd love to obviously fight over in America for Bellator, obviously. And you know, these things would be my goals short term. But I mean, I'm not looking too far ahead. As I said, I have to keep winning. You know, I mean, that's what the sport's all about. So the next fight's in front of me there on Friday, and that's all I'm really thinking about, to be honest.
Yeah, and let's talk about that fight, and I might bring Ian and Caoilte in now after this one. But you know, Abou Tounkara, you're fighting this Friday. Do you know much about Abou, or you know, have you looked at his game, and how do you see yourselves matching up?
Yeah, I looked at what I could have of him, you know, looked at his record and where he's fought, and you know, just I'd like to look into like inside outside the cage before weigh-ins and stuff, you know. Just to, but I don't like, you know, obsess over or anything. I look what he's good at. I look where I feel I can, you know, do well against, and obviously where I ultimately think I can beat him. And you know, I think this time what'll happen is, I think when we clinch up, I think he'll actually try grapple me. I think he won't shy away from the grappling. You know, I think he's a solid grappler. He's a good striker. You know, they're all going to be good at this level. You know, the way. So I think he won't shy away from the grappling. He might try grapple me. You know. So who knows? I don't know. Obviously, you know, it's funny because you look at all your opponents before the fight, and you look back when you're fighting them, and you know, it's completely different. Like, you know, like I always say, like it's always different until when you get in there, you know. So, but that's what I expect. So we'll see on the night.
Ciarán, Is there anything that you've been like focusing on for this fight camp, especially going in with a guy like Abou Tounkara? What kind do you see as his strengths and stuff like that, or anything that you've been working on, or do you just work on yourself and not focus any time on your opponent at all?
Yeah, as I said, I don't really like, I like to look at what he's good at, and I look at his frame and how he moves, and but like this time it was more actually working off the last one. Like as I said, I want to be, be more, actually letting the shots go and the striking to actually make it easier for the entry, if that makes sense, because I haven't really been able to show that at the professional level just yet. But ultimately I'm a grappler, but it'll make it easier, if that makes sense, if I let go more. But because as I said, if I felt I had the range, it was in the pocket, it was that danger zone, but I felt I could have been landing as well, and I had opportunities to do that, and I felt that, so I wanted this time, get comfortable and land, and then just get kind of that experience in there at that level as well, so kind of just building off the last one, and this guy kind of switches southpaw a little bit. I think he might kick more as well, and so I'm looking forward to it. Really, really have to say, and I'm excited for the challenge.
Yeah, indeed. You're undefeated. You're looking obviously to keep that undefeated record, but does that add an extra pressure for you, or is it something that you bother about at all? Are you comfortable with the fact that maybe a defeat might come someday, or how are you feeling around maintaining your undefeated record?
Genuinely, I don't actually think about that, to be honest. I mean, I look at myself as a whole, and I've lost many times as an amateur, and I focus on the fight and the task in hand in front of me. So I don't really it'd be nice round number now, 5-0 to, I suppose, say undefeated as professional. But I mean, I don't honestly, I don't even think about that. It's just the fight that's in front of me, and I think I'm going to stick with that as well, because it's working for me so far, and I just think looking too far ahead it's not good. You start really looking where you want to be, and you forget what's in front of you, so. But don't get me wrong, I mean, by the end of the year, I'd love to keep that O, and it'd be nice feather in my cap at the end of the year off.
Ciarán, obviously with having so many SBG fighters on the card, what's the vibe like in the gym when everyone else is training with you? Is it kind of you feed off each other's energy, or can you describe that to me?
No, it's I have to say it's great. Everybody really feels it, the way we're all in the same goal. We have big fights coming up, and it kind of reminds me of back when I first joined SBG 6-7 years ago now. You had the yellow mats, and you had that, you had obviously Conor, Paddy Ash, all the OGs, I suppose, the first wave in the UFC, and to be a part of that, training alongside them, and you really felt that, it was, the old school SBG, Chris Fields and all the Caoilte Pendred, all these guys preparing for fights and stuff, and to be a part of that, alongside. And it was I think maybe now it's our turn now, for Bellator, and so many of us, 10 of us in the card, and we're all feeling it, I mean, we're all in the same kind of, each week that goes by, you're all kind of how's the weight, it's the same kind of conversations, it's the same buzz about the place, and everybody's sparring each other, we're getting ready, and no, it's a good time for the gym, I have to say, and it's great for John and Dave as well, having so many lads on the night, and hopefully a successful night again.
I think the last time I spoke to you, we spoke about your kind of storied amateur career, and we kind of focused on that, and you gave me your thoughts on how you enjoyed fighting abroad at the tournaments, and that style of that just style of fighting, really, of having to fight day in, day out, not knowing your opponent. Now that today we've had and over the last few days we've had the Irish National Championships, that wasn't exactly around when you were an amateur, but what do you think of that, and would you like something like that back then?
I'd love it, to be honest. I think now these lads can actually say, they're the best in the country, and they're the number 1 or number 2 seed. It's brilliant, and to be honest, I really enjoyed watching them. Actually, great fight today, Jordan Fury and Colin Matter. That was a brilliant fight, I thought, and 2 high level lads. I think the 2 boys are going to do well, at the internationals, and obviously, you know, the brother and sister Nadine and Jamie win the double medals. It's unbelievable. You know, I think the level, and you know, we've all seen it there today and yesterday, the last few days leading up. I mean, the level's unbelievable, and I think it's massive. It's massive to be going up against these Russians and Kazakhstans. You know, these guys are all trained together, massive big gymnasium halls, and you know, like, and I think for us to compete with these lads, not that we aren't. I mean, we're only a small country, 4 million people, and these lads have, you know, millions, and like you've seen how well we've done on the medal table. It's testament to the training here and all the coaching and the country's level. But I think it was a step forward today, definitely, and it was great to see. I'd have loved it back when I was competing, you know, to be able to say you're a national champion or whatever. But you know, yeah, here it is now, so it's great.
Ciarán, I really appreciate the time here today. What's the chipper plan after for the celebrations in Yellow Batter?
Oh, geez, there's Joe's next door to me here in Yellow Batter, so it could be that.
Now walk us through your textbook Joe's order there, please.
Textbook Joe's would probably be a big dirty double burger and chip and big sausage and batter or something.
Oh, right. Well, I hope you get that. More than anything, I hope you get that. Ciarán, you know, big fight coming up against Abou Tounkara next Friday, the 25th of September. So this will be coming out on Wednesday. So 2 days time from now. Watch the show. Virgin Media 2, Virgin Media Sport. Feature prelim, the pride of Yellow Batter. Ciarán Clarke, do you want to give any shout outs before you head off? Or
just I want to say thanks to everybody for getting behind me. Everybody from Draw to the gym and SPG, my coaches John and Dave, and anyone who's helped me prepared for the fight. Thanks to you lads for having me on, and obviously after a busy day today. And yeah, to all my sponsors for getting behind me. They all know who I am. I'm like a race car driver here. I have too many dimensions, so they all know who they are. And thanks a million, and see you all on Friday.
100%. Thanks a million for the time today, Ciarán, and we'll chat to you again soon.
Thanks so much, Ciarán, for coming on. All the best.
Cheers, man.
And thanks so much for Ciarán for taking the time to speak with us ahead of his fight. You know, that's a fight that I'm really looking forward to seeing. Ciarán is coming in there looking to maintain his undefeated streak, and you know, he seems ready before the fight, doesn't he, Andy?
Yeah, he really does. Sorry, I got caught on mute there. He really does. He seems, you know, laser focused. He's not looking ahead. He's not looking at anything else except for this fight. And I think it's, by the sounds of things, he learned a lot from, you know, the fact that he was down on the judges' scorecards before the finish in his last one. It seems that, you know, I asked him the question, do you look at things differently now because this, you know, the judging criteria is you're looking for damage, and it almost seems like the way I perceived that was that, you know, going into that fight, in his mind, you know, once I've got the control, I'm winning here. And now he's shifting to it where, oh no, I actually need to, if I have an advantageous position, I gotta land strikes. So it'll be interesting to see if his game evolves or shifts in any way here when he gets to those positions, when he gets the takedown. Do we see more ground and pound from him? You know, how has his game changed?
Absolutely, and you know, you can see Ciarán's fight and everybody else's fight, which will be taking place this Friday at the Tree Arena in Dublin. Be live on Virgin Media 2, Virgin Media Sports, and the BBC iPlayer. And I'd recommend everybody tune in. It's always an electric atmosphere whenever Bellator brings its show into town. And you know, if you want to go over to SevereMMA YouTube, we'll take a deep dive into that card on the pre-show over there. And as we move along to another super big domestic card that's taking place on March 5th, and that's Cage Conflict 6. And I mean, we spoke about Cage Conflict on the last podcast and the quality of shows that they're bringing to the table. And I mean, this Cage Conflict 6 card is absolutely unbelievable. Again, they're bringing maximum amount of talent there, bringing some fighters over from overseas as well. Caoilte, is there anything that's really standing out, or would you like to quickly take us through some of the standout fights for you on this card?
Of course, like I think we spoke about some of these in the last podcast as well, where I think there was a few announced back then, but we've had a few more since, and it's packing out now. You've got quite a lot of pro fights. Obviously, you've got that Ciaran Mulholland and Ger Harris fight headlining the card for the belt. Like, fight sells itself. It's going to be an absolute barn burner. Matthew Elliott, I'm really looking forward to seeing him back in there. That wrestling pedigree of his is absolutely off the chart. It's amazing, and he takes on the jiu-jitsu wizard in Michel da Silva, so I'm imagining that's going to be really good one to watch for grappling fans, but it could also just see him stand and bang for 3 rounds. I wouldn't be surprised, and I wouldn't argue it either. Scott Harvey and Ciaran Breslin. I admittedly haven't seen much of Scott Harvey. I've heard quite a bit about him, so I'm looking forward to seeing him in there, especially with 1-0 pro in Ciaran Breslin. Moving down the card, I think there's so much here. Takamandu is back. He's fighting in Ireland. It's a perfect opportunity to get to go see him, which is fantastic. I think he got a new opponent as well, so be good to see him back in there, especially after a loss in his last one and what wasn't what we were expecting after his debut. A quick one now I want to highlight as well is that featherweight amateur title fight between Julian Renaud and Keith Keogh. And he might be looking at this one as well. I'm really looking forward to this. I watched
100%. 100%. If you speak to Chris Fields, he's so high on Julian Renaud, so high on this guy. So I admittedly haven't actually seen Julian Renaud fight live, or I'm going to need to go back and watch his fights now. But by all reports coming from the gym, he's a very special talent. So he's only a 2-0 amateur, of course. So it's hard to label someone as such, and we've probably a proclivity to doing that too often at times. But really excited to see this, and especially after seeing Keith Keogh at the IMMA National Championships. Keith Keogh looks very, very good. So we'll see. And look, let's address the elephant in the room. Team KF are not a member of IMMA. At the moment, Fight Academy Ireland are not a member of IMMA. So there are certain gyms that you're not seeing at the National Championship. So while this is why for me it's a weird one, because I like the IMMA setup. I like the whole concept of the National Championships. I like the idea of seeing who the best talent in Ireland is. But if you don't have every gym in there, you can't truly say you are the best in Ireland. You can say you're the best of the IMMA National Championships. But now we're going to see, okay, Julian Renaud, you may not have been at the National Championships. Let's see how you do against Keith Keogh. Similarly, Keith Keogh, how are you going to do against Julian Renaud? So a really exciting amateur fight here.
Absolutely, yeah, I agree 100%. And also there's Ben Hughes has another chance to bring some gold back to Team KF when he takes on Aidan Devlin as well. And we also have a vacant Bantamweight Championship on the line when Owen McDonald and Carl McConway go to battle for the amateur Bantamweight Championship. And four titles on the line there on the amateur ranks. And then as we move up to the main event, we have the flyweight championship on the line. The champion Ciaran Mulholland takes on SBG Charlestown's Ger Harris, one of the top prospects coming through. Ger Harris, a former gold medalist at IMMAF Worlds, and I think he's a phenomenal prospect coming through, and this is going to be an absolutely belter of a fight. So we'll take the time maybe to speak to Ciaran Mulholland right now about that fight and about his preparations and about his future plans, and then we can have a quick word about the fight itself after the interview. So now I'd like to introduce the flyweight world champion, the flyweight champion of Cage Conflict, maybe not the world champion yet.
World champion.
Yeah, there's a lot of world talk going on. The flyweight champion of Cage Conflict, Ciaran Mulholland. Take it away.
And now we're joined by Ciaran Mulholland, who's set to headline Cage Conflict 6 against Ger Harris, defending his flyweight belt. Ciaran, how are you?
I'm good. Camp's going great. Really excited. We're sort of two weeks out, so starting to sort of slowly focus on the fight. It's getting really exciting.
That's good. And obviously, you had a really busy year last year, having the 3 fights within, I think it was 6 months. It was a crazy busy spell for you. How was that for you, looking back at last year, and how important was that for you and your career?
Yeah, so ideally last year I was hoping to get 4 fights in. My first one was called off with COVID. And then I was lucky enough to be able to get 3, and I got 1 on Cage Warriors in June and 2 on Cage Conflict back in the year. This year I'm aiming for 4 again, at least 4 this year. COVID's pretty much cleared up, so there's no reason why I shouldn't get at least 4. 5 would be great, but I want at least 4. March is a nice early start. I've plenty of year left. Cage Warriors are planning on coming here and sort of make him here, so if I get on March and May, you still got the best part of sort of the year. You get maybe another 2 or 3 in, so I want to stay really busy this year too.
Sounds like a very busy year. And just to go back a little bit to the start of your pro career, I know you had it was a kind of a tough start. How was that for you, and did that affect your decision to go down to flyweight, and did the plan stay there?
So I wasn't. I'm not too sure it was bantamweight was a problem. It was maybe just a time in my life for the gym I was in at the time. I'd sort of maybe reached the capabilities with the coaching. Sorry, so the coaching I had my two head coaches were like Gary Shinee and sort of Martin Kilman, which I call them both, and they were my coaches for like from pretty much I joined the sport, and they had to take a back step for sort of like family reasons and whatnot. I obviously at that time in my life I sort of was with him for 5 years. I felt like I didn't want to leave gym because I didn't want to be seen as like a gym hopper, and I had loyalty to them. So for about a year or so, I pretty much coached myself, and I kept the gym open as I was sort of pretty much the head coach of the gym, and I was coaching from the gym. I was trying to coach myself. I mean, I think it took the Jack McGuire fight to really like set myself where I'm at. Like I can't do this by myself. I need to call a day and reach out and get like being coached again. And that's what I made the move to Fight Academy Ireland. So I think Fight Academy Ireland's been a massive move. But I think the amount of training I'm doing up around, like, I'm not having to worry about organising sessions. I think that made the decision to go back to flyweight all the more easier because now I was only solely focused on my own training and not everybody else's training. So I've got the sort of time to implement the weight cut.
Of course. And how did the conversations come about with FAI and to join them?
So I sort of heard for a long time that they were obviously one of the best gyms in the country. And then when I sort of made the decision that I was going to move, it made the most sense to join the best gym in the company. Obviously I heard like Paul Hughes and Joe McColgan from the gym. I actually knew a few lads like more at the more local scene already, and they're all starting to break through too. You're starting to see legs like Owen McDonald and Ger Burns stuff coming through. Paddy Mccord, I knew all them lads sort of locally. So joining Fight Academy was no brainer. But I texted Pat McCall and I texted Shannon just saying about coming up, and I was going to go for a couple of sessions to get wet and stuff. But then what ended up happening, we ended up getting the lockdown. It was January last year. I joined January, I think it was 3rd or 4th, and because they had Paul coming up and stuff and fights and Joe coming up, they were able to like create a fighter bubble, COVID-free bubble pretty much, where all the pro fighters were still able to train, and that sort of really stamped down then me staying there because I was able to give mass up myself, and that became my camp for that fight. We were all training behind closed doors, COVID-free environment. We were getting in two sessions a day, sort of 5 and 6 days a week, when a lot of gyms weren't even able to.
And the fact that you got that training, you're able to train full time, the gym is very busy. You have a lot of guys who are turned pro now, and they're fighting everywhere. You've Paul Hughes fighting for the title. You've yourself headlining. There's plenty of others on the Cage Conflict card as well. How important is that, and how much do you think you've leveled up by being around all these type of fighters?
I know people say all the time, like, oh, it's best camp of my life and level up tenfold, but honestly, like, me moving from Fight Academy, it's been massive. Like, it's just been, I think Pat took everything I sort of had in my grappling, like, out of it to it, tidied it up, and I feel like Shannon's added so much more to my striking. There's such a big striking dynamic. When I'm hitting Paddy Shannon, probably my favourite session of the week. He's sort of like, he gives you lots of angles, lots of different looks. I sort of feel like on the feet, I'm so much more comfortable now. I'm not really desperate for takedowns no more. I'm really comfortable on the feet. I can switch stance. I'm so comfortable, and I've always got options. And then if you try to take me down, you're in big trouble. Or if I do get you down, you're in big trouble. Just like, I think you've seen last year it was three fights, 3 finishes, all of which were submissions. But like, there's just so much more to offer, and this year's going to be another big year. I'll say I want 4 fights in, and I'm not settling for anything other than finishes.
And to look ahead to your fight now with Ger Harris, it's a very good fight. And I watched the two of you speak with the Energized podcast. You did the face off, and it was very good. But both of you seem very focused, and you're willing to have a really tough fight and just put it all on the line. How excited are you for that, and to headline a card as well?
Yeah, sure. I can't wait. For me, I love fighting the best. On my pro debut, I fought Nathan Fletcher, and when I was not one, I wasn't looking for an easy fight to get me back to 1-on-1 or whatnot. I went and fought Jack McGuire, who at the time was probably the best flyweight in the country. Obviously he just turned pro, but like, I wasn't looking for easy fights. I never look for easy fights. I want to be the best. I want to be the best flyweight there is, and the only way I want to do that is test myself. So Ger Harris, he's an up and coming. Fair play to him for taking the fight. I think he there's more risk on him than there is me. Obviously I have a lot of pro experience, and sort of people would expect me to win, but I expect myself to win. But I think Ger obviously being a pro debut, he's stepping in the lands there. So fair play for taking the fight. But yeah, it is a great matchup. And I think it's probably one of the most exciting fights this year. That's if it lasts, you know. I'm aiming for a first round finish. Everything sort of in my camp is geared towards going out here and finishing fights. I just don't see the fight going any longer than 2 rounds.
Interesting. And obviously with the you spend quite a lot of time. You spent your last 2 fights with cage conflict, and you've thrived there as well. Do you think that the promotion itself and what it offers is probably the best in the country at the moment in terms of the opportunities for pro fighters in particular?
Oh yeah, definitely. Cage conflict on the regional scene is massive. Like they're doing shows that other promotions couldn't even dream of pulling off. Like the field last year, it was, for me, it was almost like a dream. Walking out in the Falls Park, I lived 5 minutes away from the field, and it was like having an MMA show outdoor in Belfast with like 3,000 to 4,000 people. I just thought it was unheard of. The cage warriors going to come here. They're maybe going to do the Odyssey, and they'll probably sell out half the Odyssey, which is about 4,000 or 5,000 people. For cage conflict, her so-called regional show, it just goes to show you like, what type of fans they're pulling off. And cage conflict in 4 or 5 years' time is going to be regarded as one of the biggest promotions, sort of like probably UK based, maybe even Europe, because they're flying fighters from everywhere. They're not just like cage conflict can sell out on the amateurs alone. Like I know a guy like Ger Burns, he's fighting his card. He sells lots of tickets. Or Owen McDonald, lots of tickets. When Hal Planning before, he sells lots of tickets. Myself, lots of tickets. But they could sell out, I guarantee you, on the amateurs alone. And obviously, like they fly in guys in pro fights. Like the flew me in Robbie Brown, the flying Robbie Brown again for Ger Burns. Because Ger Burns was originally supposed to fight in Italian, I think, and that fight got pulled out. They're flying like an Italian or a French guy like Taka. So the guys, they're not trying to cut corners and maybe just put on 1 or 2 fights and then like let the amateur sell the rest. They're putting on big shows for the crowd, and it's going to be seen. And anyone who goes to a cage conflict event feels the atmosphere, feels that they're watching something special, and that's going to stand behind them in 4 or 5 years' time.
100%. I must agree. They take the risks. They bring these fighters over, and they give you amazing opportunities by doing so. It's great to hear your perspective of it. I just bring in Andy or Ian there if they have any questions as well.
Yeah, Ciarán, you mentioned about how special it is to be fighting on those cage conflict cards. I have to agree, they are really great cards, some of the best fights that you'll see in Ireland right now. And I'm just wondering, for your sake, like you're defending your flyweight title, is it extra special for you that you're defending it up in the Devonish in your own backyard in Belfast?
Yeah, so for me, every time I fight home, it's special because I was like, my first 3 years of my amateur career, I pretty much spent in the UK. I spent in Liverpool, spent in London. So it's great to be back home, especially for such a sustained period of time. Like there used to be a time where like all my friends told me, like, when are we ever going to fight here? When are we ever going to fight here? And now, like, I was able to fight here twice last year. I mean, I've already told everybody in December, like, I'm going to be defending my title early here next year. I mean, I'm back on Cage Wars. Well, Cage Wars do come here. It's going to be, it's not to be known that they haven't obviously announced it. So, but I have seen they've announced Manchester and they've announced stuff like that. So, I'm more than willing to travel again, whether it be Manchester or whether it be London again. But it has been nice to be home, and to sort of to defend my belt in front of all my hometown, home crowd, all back me. Because as I say, I'd like 10 minutes from Devonish. I've sold plenty of tickets for us. There's going to be an absolute buzzing atmosphere in that Devonish. It's going to be pretty special.
You're expecting a big crowd there, are you, Ciarán?
Oh, massive crowd. And I know Ger's going to bring a big crowd as well, because obviously he hasn't fought in a while. And this is obviously his pro debut, so he's going to bring a massive crowd. So this main event is going to be excellent. The atmosphere is going to be fantastic. I know I'm going to bring a big crowd. He's going to bring a big crowd, and the main event alone is going to be special.
Ciarán, you're training obviously full time as a professional, but you're also holding down a full time job as well. How do you find the balance between the two? Is it difficult to kind of find that balance in between training and working a regular job?
So I like, for me, MMA is priority, and job comes second. So like, I was willing to walk in and out of jobs and like try to shop and change hours and ask managers to do me favours and everything else to try to suit my MMA career. So I've recently got a new job where I'm working night shift. I start at 3 o'clock in the morning, something about 2 or 3 in the morning most nights. I finish at 8 in the morning. So I'm home 8 in the morning. I can get an hour's sleep most days, and I head to like 10 or 11 o'clock training. Come home, chill out, see the kids, get a bite to eat, and head evening training. I come home evening training about 9:30. I'll sleep from like sort of 9:30, 10 o'clock, right up until I need to go to work again. That's sort of like found the balance sort of perfect. Obviously, sort of for some mornings I'm out training really early. Like Pat picked me up last Saturday morning, 8 o'clock, as soon as I finished work. We went on the steps. But there's days there, and maybe that's only on the weekends. There's days like during the week, like also for tomorrow, for example, I'm not my first training session not until 11 o'clock. Once I finish work at 8 o'clock, I can maybe get about 2 hours sleep in before I go training again. So the balance is perfect.
Yeah, that's serious going, man. Fair play. And you know, is your future, your foreseeable future, probably you will be at flyweight, but can you foresee yourself maybe moving up to the bantamweight division again? Maybe sometime in the future, yeah. But I would like to stay at flyweight for as long as possible. I've got a plan for at least this year and probably next. I want to win the Cage Warriors World title at flyweight before I even thinking maybe going bantamweight or whatnot. I think I put three in the bench last year. If they put 4 in the bench this year, I don't think Cage Warriors sort of really deny me for the early next year, sort of mid next year, for world title. So that's sort of my plan on it, or sort of my outlook.
Ciarán, you mentioned something there, and it's the steps. I am fascinated by it. I've been following Patrick McAllister for a long time now, but I see you guys running these steps on a Sunday morning. It looks like absolute hell. And you're saying that you've come straight from a night shift to running these steps. Talk to us a little bit about that training.
So the steps are mental, 1000%. So once you do your first 4 or 5 sets of steps, it feels the same right until you finish. It's just whether you can mentally take it. Like we done yesterday, we went and done 30 sets of steps, and it's grueling. So other 5, your legs are bust. Your legs, but it's what you can push through and how much you want. You can stop at any time, and you have to be done for the day. But you're not. You're going to keep pushing. And that's the sort of mentality I want to bring in the face. Like I know I can use my gas tank as a weapon. I know I've got that there. I know my heart's never going to let me down. I know if I'm 2 rounds down, getting to my 3rd round, I know I can go out and pull out of the bag, because I know I've got the gas tank, I've got the heart, I'm never going to quit. And I came through my amateur career as well. Like I took a fighting short notice against Liam Gittins. I took on 10 days notice, and the guy was #1 amateur in the UK, and I found out why. He was the pace he pushed was relentless. And normally what happens in his fights, if you watch, he floods people. So once like he sort of starts their pace, they die away. He's able to get a finish. So in the first round, he came out and started like a house on fire. And I think I took the 2nd round. He took the 3rd and 4th, and again the 5th round, rather than him sort of being able to put me away, I sort of come out and actually the 5th round, probably my 5th round. I won the 5th round as well. And he had an interview after the fight, and he says like, I can't believe he was able to do 5 rounds with me. He obviously took him 10 days notice. He thought he was going to get a nice early finish, because I was going to wilt under pressure. That's not the case. And I know I'm built on steady gas tank and a lot of heart, and then all my skills on top of that, and obviously all the coaching I've got is just build this big body of a tree. But underneath all my skills, I've got a gas tank and a heart of a lamb.
And you know, you're talking about you primarily want to stay at flyweight, right? So it's a bit difficult to get matchups at flyweight. So I'm going to play a little fantasy matchmaker here now for 1 second. You're fighting Ger Harris in the main event here coming up, but it's almost like his older brother is in the background there at the gym as well, in Ryan Curtis. Would that be a fight that you'd be interested in down the line?
Yeah, so I like, for me, I want to be a top flyweight in the UK, top flyweight in Europe. And I know these guys, these aren't matchups I want to avoid. These are matchups I want to look for. Like Ryan Curtis and Blaine O'Driscoll and stuff. They're top matchups. Like you seen Blaine O'Driscoll, he fought on brave, he fought against Mccormack. I actually thought he was doing really well in the fight until he finished. And Ryan Curtis is a great guy, and he's a great fighter as well. So they're matchups that really excite me. They're matchups I want to build towards the future. I think. After Ger Harris, I'm obviously probably going to go Cage Wars. Cage Wars will match me up. and they only have top lads on there as well. So it's all building blocks. At the minute, I'm no real rush. I've learned so much up at Fight Academy, and I've learned so much already. Like I'll just say, my level's up tenfold. But the longer I'm there, the more and more I'm learning. I'm going to take on the top guys, beat all the top guys. So I'd say at the minute, I'm probably maybe you put me up there, maybe second or third best flyweight in Ireland. But by the end of the year, I want to be up there first, definitely. And then obviously come next year, I'm going to be after world titles. And whoever cage warriors put in front of me, or whoever pop the channel say, listen, this is who they're offered. I'm not going to shy away from any fights.
So is Cage Warriors number one priority now? Then after this fight, obviously you're looking to go Cage Warriors, and then I'm assuming with a goal to move on to the UFC eventually. Oh
yes, the UFC is definitely the end goal. Cage Warriors World Champion is like short term. Obviously I've got the cage conflict belt, and that's great. I'm going to defend it here, like a true champion. And then obviously Cage Warriors, if they come here in May, that'd be amazing. If they don't, I'll say I'm willing to travel, willing to go to London, Manchester, Liverpool, wherever Cage Warriors may be, get myself back on there and start showing myself on the European platform again. And then we'll see where it goes from there. If Cage Warriors sort of aren't too active this year, I'm willing to be active. I'm willing to go back on Cage Conflict if need be, stay active. But I think Cage Warriors probably will have a busy schedule. I'm hoping to get obviously maybe at least 4 or 5 in this year. So I'll fight on whatever promotions would need to be, whether it be Cage Warriors or Cage Conflict. But the end goal being the UFC. I'll say short-term goal being the Cage Warriors flyweight champion. So I just need to keep racking up wins and make sure they're taking notice.
I think that's all we have for you, Ciarán. Do you have any shout-outs before we let you go?
I'd like to share my teammates. So obviously, Jared Burns and McDonald with Sensationalist Camp. Glenn McVeigh. They sort of my main sparring partners. Cormac Burns as well. He's had an unlucky camp with injuries. But Jared Burns, Owen McDonald, and Glenn McVeigh, they push me. We spar twice a week, and these guys put in serious rounds. Owen McDonald is an absolute killer. You're going to see him win the Bantamweight amateur title. Jared Burns is making his pro debut against a guy I fought last time. It's going to be a special performance from him as well. And he just had his wee baby girl not 2 weeks ago. So it's going to be a real special moment for him. It's his first one as a daddy, and it'll be his first pro fight as well. So I'm sure he's looking forward to it. In terms of sponsors, I'll share Conor Mulholland. He's back from day one. He's a real sound lad. He's a mechanics. He's best in the business around my side of town. And as I say, he's back from day one. Couldn't be an nice fella. I also want to thank Deborah Doherty for coming on board. She's like a financial advisor, insurance protection. She's a real lovely girl, and she sort of looks out, helps people's families on insurance and how to protect them in case you ever need to come out of work or anything like that. Also want to shout Shredder Meal Plans. They've come on board this camp, and they've made getting down the flyweight really easy. We're going to hit 125 on the scale, championship weight. We're going to defend the belt.
Ciarán, I can't wait for this fight. I'm buzzing to see you and Ger square off. I think you both deserve a lot of credit for taking this fight as well, because it's a tough fight for both of you, to be honest. So I'm buzzing for this. I know Caoilte is buzzing, and I know Ian's buzzing too. So thanks for coming on today, and I really appreciate the time.
Yes. Thanks for having me, lads. It's going to be the best flyweight fight in the country by a mile this year. As I say, it's 2 top lads wanting to fight each other. Fair play, Ger, taking it, and I can't wait to throw down.
And thank you very much to Ciaran Mulholland for that. I mean, yeah, Ciaran is a great guy to take the time coming up there, trying to balance a professional and hold down a job as well. Not an easy thing to do. He spoke about that in the interview, and spoke about his excitement there as well, fighting on home soil as well. And maybe a couple of our listeners outside of Ireland now are going to have a little bit of a hard time understanding. And we spoke with Ciaran after the fight as well. He says he always talks at 100 miles an hour, but fair play to him for taking the time to talk to us today. And that, lads, just to talk about that fight, it's a really top fight. I mean, credit to both guys here. Credit to Ger Harris for coming in and taking this. We talked time and time again about, if you want to call padding your record or fighting a couple of cans to get yourself a nice start to your professional career, neither of these guys they cannot be accused of doing that. I mean, Ciaran Mulholland went in and fought Nathan Fletcher, like he said, on his first fight. Ger Harris is coming in here to fight, 5-fight veteran. And I mean, credit to both of them. Ger Harris is phenomenal talent coming through. This fight can not disappoint. This is going to be all action. Mulholland said himself in the interview he doesn't expect it to go past 2 rounds. Caoilte, how do you expect the fight to go down?
Oh, you put me on the spot here. Do you know what?
Prediction right now.
I'm gonna sit in the fence. I'm gonna annoy a few people. I'm gonna sit in the fence here. I do not know whatsoever. I'm just buzzing to see these two go at it because it's guaranteed to be a fun fight. Like, and just credit to the two of them for taking it. Like, it's a great fight to make, and fair play to Cage Conflict for putting it on as well, and especially to headline the card.
Absolutely, and I mean, like, I didn't want to put you too much on the fence, and apologies for that. I mean, I think this fight cannot disappoint. The two guys who want to come forward, and there's a lot of unanswered questions about Ger. Obviously, this will be the first time we'll see him in the professional ranks. You know, fighting 3 5s for this one. Yeah, so it'll be 3 5-minute rounds. So, like, maybe I'll bring it over to you, Andy. What's your thoughts on the fight as a whole? Are you excited to see what happens?
Yeah, 100%. And if you can move over there, Caoilte, I'll join you right there on the fence because I'm not giving a prediction for this one either. You know, the fight aside, for a moment, these type of cards, the Cage Conflict cards, you know, these local shows, for me, they're real like check-in events, if that makes sense, where they really provide us an opportunity to take a look and see fighters' levels. And I think this fight at the top of the card is an example of that. You know, we know that Ger Harris is a very, very good fighter. We've seen him on the amateur scene. We've seen him at the IMMAF tournaments, which he's won. We know what Ciaran Mulholland has to offer, and especially the resurgence of his career since, as he spoke about, you know, losing those first 2 pro fights against 2 tough opponents. But the transition over from Titans MMA to Fight Academy Ireland, and the work that, you know, looking at from afar, Fight Academy Ireland seem to really be having just a fantastic time at the moment, where their gym just seems to be booming and they seem to be bringing it up a level. Now I am just really excited for this fight. You know, it's one of those ones where I don't know who's going to win. I think it's a great fight for both, but unfortunately one of them has to lose. So yeah, I'm buzzing for it. I don't know what more I can say about it really, but it's just one of those ones where I just want to sit back, watch it and see how they play out, and really get a sense of where each of them are.
Yeah, big time. I agree. I mean, you know, two lads, like, for me, Ciaran Mulholland said he wants to try and stand and bang a little bit more. And rather than relying on his grappling, we have seen him resort, and he is a good submission artist as well. We've seen that time and time again with Ciaran Mulholland. And, you know, if there's anyone that you want to be hopping in there to stand and bang with, and that's Ger Harris. He absolutely loves it. He's buzzing for this fight, and the two of those lads are definitely going to put on a show. And there's still some tickets.
Ian, would you kind of hope that Ciaran would maybe go away from that game plan against someone like a Ger Harris, you know?
Yeah, well, I guess it's all about, like, you know, if you want to go in there and you want to try and work on your game, I mean, we don't really know. Like, I mean, if he goes in there and it's not working out for him, like, he'd be foolish not to go down and utilize his grappling. But then we don't know what Ger Harris's defense is like when it comes to grappling as well. So it might not be an option for Ciaran. So those are the unanswered questions that we don't have right now. And that's what makes this fight so intriguing. So, I mean, we'll probably deep dive into it a little bit more after we see the fight, so that when we see what's after happening. But I mean, the fight can go many ways, but I can guarantee you one thing is going to be entertaining, and these two boys are always up for a show, and they're always up for a fight, whether it's on the ground, whether it's standing up. And that's what I expect to see on March 5th, and that'll take place, and that is the headliner at the Devonish in Belfast. I think there are still tickets available for that show, and I would recommend, if you're half thinking about going, go and watch that main event. Go and watch the rest of the card. One of the best cards that I like. I mean, Cage Conflict never disappoint when they put their cards together. I mean, you're going to see a show. There's going to be a great atmosphere up there. I don't believe that there's any pay-per-view stream.
News in the news bulletin just in on the line wire here. They will have a pay-per-view. So by the time this comes out, they're announcing it tomorrow. So we're recording here on a Sunday. So come Monday, that should be announced. So there'll be a pay-per-view for Cage Conflict 6.
Oh, I'm absolutely delighted, because whatever chance you have, lads, of going to see it live, I've absolutely no chance over here, and I'm dying to see that card. So I'm buzzing to see that it's on pay-per-view, and I can't wait to watch it. So, like, yeah, if look for the live atmosphere, buy your tickets, head up and watch that show. If you can't make it there, tickets are sold out. we have the pay-per-view stream, but that's going to be a hell of a lot of good action up there. So we'll move on to, Andy's breaking some news here on the podcast. We have some other news that we'd like to get through as well. Caoilte KS19 happened recently. I'd like you maybe just to talk briefly about that card. And I know that you were really impressed with Jordan O'Neill on that card, who became a 3-weight world why do I keep saying world champion, guys? I don't know what's going on. I want to put a world title on everybody today. Jordan O'Neill became a 3-weight champion at that event.
Yeah, like, I admittedly didn't see the fight, but the fact that you are winning a belt at 3 different weight classes now is just incredible. They're all in different promotions as well. The man's just collecting belts for fun here. So yeah, he fought in the main event against Dennis Perry, won the light heavyweight belt. Haven't seen a video for it yet. Really want to, but that's some achievement. I tell you what, the one fight I did see, the only fight from that card I actually did get to see, was Gary Rooney's fight, and that was fun. That I'd recommend if you're a fan of grappling, go watch that fight. It's really fun to watch. Close fight. I think I would have given it to Gary, and rightfully so. He won, and he picked up his first amateur belt in the process. So fair play to him. And yeah, I love watching him fight. Can't wait to see him go in there again.
Nice. Just to go back on Jordan O'Neill, he did become a 3-weight world champion. But what other weight classes did he?
World champion.
World champion.
What is going on with me today?
World champion O'Neill over here. What the fuck? Oh my
God, what is going on? I'm just going to say that for the rest of the podcast.
You go to Canada and you become Mr. Worldwide.
That's it. Oh my God. He did become a champion at other weights, Caoilte. And what I was wondering is, like, what other weights did he become champion at, and stuff like that?
My apologies. I should have clarified that. Yeah, so he is the Clan Wars heavyweight champion. He won that. Yeah, world title, world champion, and he beat Trevor McKengo to win that. After that, he moved out. He went from heavyweight to middleweight. Fought Gareth McCormack for the middleweight belt of Cage Conflict, and then most recently went to light heavyweight and added a third belt to the collection. So he's had that's all since August. He's had a mad time.
Jeez, that's
crazy. Anyone who becomes a 3-time world champion, fair play.
Even you're saying it now. And hey, look, if the Americans can call themselves world champions after winning the Super Bowl, we can call our Super Bowl champion. Yeah, we can call our Irish champions world champions, because they're all world champions in our eyes. As we move on, news that's happening on the day of recording, Richie Smullen picked up a second round head and arm choke to become the RFP double champion. He's the featherweight champion today. He became the lightweight champion. I know, Andy, you spoke to him ahead of that fight. That's a real great achievement for Richie Smullen, picking up his second title of his professional career.
It's huge. He's had such a great run since he was, he's, I think, 7-1 now since he got released by the UFC. It's just mad. He's had such a good run. I'm really it's just good to see Richie Smullen succeeding. And Bellator, I don't really understand why they got rid of him. Obviously he went to Bellator after the UFC run. He had one split decision loss to Albert Diaz, and now he's gone and won 2 titles. So he's also signed with Sucker Punch Entertainment. So it'll be interesting to see now how he gets on. He's eyeing up, as far as he's concerned, he's willing to do anything to get back into the UFC. He's willing to, whoever they want him to fight, he'll go fight them. He wants to put the hard work in. Richie is a fighter's fighter, and I think anyone on the scene will tell you that. So he's not looking for any easy fight. He will take on anyone who comes his way. He'll jump up in weight class. He'll jump in the contender series, and as far as he's concerned, all roads leading back to the UFC. So Richie Smullen is on some tear at the moment, and you know what? He's finishing fights. Another finish today, a head and arm choke today. So maybe the one negative you could say in days gone by about Richie's his career would be maybe, as he said himself, it might have been a little bit boring. And he spoke to me about how the fact that there was a show and win purse for Bellator, it made him fight a little bit conservatively, and he was a little bit afraid, whereas now he's just getting a straight show money, and he's just going out there and just putting a beating on lads. So Richie Smullen is surging right now, and it's great to see.
Yeah, it absolutely is. I'd love to see Richie get another crack in the UFC, and you know, the one sure way of getting your a second crack at it for him is getting out there and finishing fights, and that's what he's doing. He's a double champion there now in the Ukrainian promotion, and I'm excited to see what's down the line. Andy, I'll go back to you again. Daria Synagoga was supposed to be fighting at over in Vancouver. That fight got pulled.
No. So the card itself got postponed. So the cards, I think it's I need to check now. It might be the 15th of March or the 13th of March. It's in a few weeks, so it's the fight's still on. He's the main event, interim title, the lightweight title, and I saw something potentially that the winner could potentially get a crack at Dana White's Contender Series. So this could be a big fight for Irish MMA. So I'll certainly be keeping an eye on this. But yeah, the fight's still on. As far as I'm aware, it's just that the fight card has been pushed back by a couple of weeks.
Nice, that'd be a great opportunity for him if he was successful, and I'd be looking forward to seeing him competing on the Contender Series there. Dee Begley signed for Combatche Global. I mean, another addition to Combatche Global. We're kind of picking up a few Irish fighters over there for Campbell McLaren's promotion, and yeah, I think I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see Dee Begley over there. I think I'm very curious, and I'm not too sure of the details yet. But if it would be a tournament she would be going into, or just fighting singular fights, but I think it's a great opportunity for Dee, and I'm sure you're excited to see her fighting over there, Caoilte.
Yeah, it's fantastic. The more Irish going abroad to these big promotions, the better. And Campbell's taken very good care of Palahan and Franz Bonambo as well. We've seen them thrive over there, so it's a really good platform. I think we all know the numbers they do because Campbell lets us know. So look, it's a great platform. Pick up some new fans, and yeah, if it's a tournament, and look, if it's a tournament style, she's used to it. She's used to doing the day after day ones, but if it's a one-night tournament, she'd be used to fighting consecutively. So yeah, it's fantastic. I still think it's a shame we didn't get to see the Dakota Cheva fight, but sure, look, maybe another day.
Indeed, we might see that down the line. Will Fleury's taking on Tarek Suleiman, UAE Warriors, for the middleweight title. We kind of touched on Will's fight in the last podcast, but we didn't have all the details there. Andy broke the story. That'll be at UAE Warriors 28, which is now pushed back until March 26, Andy.
Yeah, I believe it's been pushed back by a week. This is a great fight for Will. He finally gets the opportunity. We were speaking about Richie Smullen a moment ago, and Will Fleury is of the Richie Smullen ilk. Fight anyone, anywhere, anytime. Will, another one who I felt was hard done by Bellator and getting released, and again he's been, traveling abroad to find fights and just to find anyone that'll fight him, and now he's finally got a title fight on UAE Warriors. And what's significant about this as well is they have signed a deal with UFC Fight Pass, so that puts more eyes on Will. It's a prominent promotion that's growing in the Middle East, and again he's fighting a guy who he's already beat. He's beaten Tariq Suleiman before. Suleiman won the light heavyweight title in UAE Warriors. He has since fought a number of times at middleweight, so Will's going in here against a guy he's already beaten in a big spot. And again, like I mentioned for Richie Smullen, Will's now signed with, I believe, Danny Rubenstein of Ruby Sports. So again, making moves in his career here, and we could see Will potentially getting the title here, and then maybe moving on and probably looking towards the UFC. You would hope anyway. So big fight here for Will.
Absolutely. Obviously, he was in there with Suleiman before and won that fight as well. And I'm really excited for Will to get this opportunity as well. A top guy, and he deserves this opportunity. I believe he'll take it as well. And I'd love to see him kind of progress and get his shot with the UFC. No better man to take it as well. I mean, you're excited to see Will go over there. One of the rawest men walking around Ireland is going to be one of the rawest men walking around Abu Dhabi soon enough to take that title shot. And I'm sure you're excited to see it too, Caoilte.
Of course, you can't. It's hard not to be excited for Will Fleury. And look, he's going to have the best mustache over there as well. No one can argue that. It's amazing. So it's a thing of art. I'm looking forward. I didn't know he beat Tarek Sullivan before. Just looked it up there as soon as you said it, and that makes this a hell of a lot more interesting. I must watch that back actually. So yeah, massive opportunity. UAE Warriors have been producing some serious talent recently. So yeah, big opportunity, and if he could easily get a UFC call up if with the win here.
Absolutely, he joins a couple of other Irish fighters on the time. Closer to the card, we'll take a deep dive into that card. And maybe our last bit of news here now is that Lee Hammond was announced for Heroes Fight League on March 18th as well. As he said on your interview, Andy, he signed just a 1-fight deal with Bellator. He'll fight in Heroes Fight League on March 18th as well. So we have not one but 2 Lee Hammond fights to look forward to as we progress, and we'll talk about that fight and a couple of the other fights, UAE Warriors, and a couple of the other events that are coming up as well in future
I've been
episodes.
Frantically checking my phone here to try and get word of, as we're recording here, Ryan Curtis is right, waiting to make the walk, I think, to fight here over his first fight in over 2 years against Tom Creasy over at ECMMA 8. No word as of yet. I think he's still waiting to make the walk, so we'll have to wait. You won't have that news on this episode, unfortunately, I don't think.
We will absolutely talk about that fight on our next episode. It's great to see Ryan back in there again, competing, and it's been a tough old road for him trying to get fights lately, so hopefully he has a busy 2022, and hopefully he's successful tonight as well, and we'll deep dive into that fight on our next episode for sure. And if the result comes in before we finish recording, we'll be wrapping it up pretty soon, but if the result does come in, we'll let you guys know. As we move along to the questions and answers section, where we go to Ross from the Energize Show, and I'll bring it to you first, Andy. How
beautiful man, Ross.
Absolutely beautiful, and an excellent commentator too, I have to say. A massively talented guy,
top class broadcaster.
Can do it all. But he asks, how important is it for every gym in the country to be represented at the Nationals? And, it's something that you touched on, Andy, when we were just briefly talking about Bellator there, or about Cage Conflict, about like gyms like FAI and Team KF not being a part of the IMMAF setup just yet. I feel that it's important for everyone to get a true reflection of it, and I know you kind of echoed those sentiments as well.
Yeah, I think it's massively important that, if we're having an Irish National Championships, it has to be everyone in Ireland. And look, I don't know the ins and outs of maybe decisions why they would or wouldn't join up. I'm sure they all have their own reasons, but you would like to think that at some point we can get to a point where there is, one body where everyone is happy to buy into, everybody is happy with the structure, and everybody is happy to have their athletes represented there. And just removing as many barriers as possible so that anyone who wants to go, regardless of which gym you're in, you go, you fight, and then you go on and represent your country. So I think it's massively important that we have, everyone involved.
Yeah, I definitely agree as well, and I'd assume you would agree as well, Caoilte.
I can only echo what Andy said. It's very. I think it's very important. Hopefully they get involved at some point. That's one thing I will say. Hopefully they do get involved at some point, because if you want to have the highest levels for these tournaments, then you need everyone involved. And look, it's a good way for even gyms who aren't involved. It's a good way for their fighters to get lots of experience very quickly, and international experience as well. Like that, winners today go to a Super Cup. They don't have, like the winners today. They don't have to pay for their expenses to go over there. They get to fight against. They're starting off against the RMMAU team. Then they're going to go up again. If they win that, they're through to other to the next team, and so on and so forth. It's international competition. It's invaluable experience. Let's be real. You're not going to get that type of those type of fighters over here. So, hopefully they all get on board, and there's something can happen. And we'll see a very competitive and national championships in years to come.
100%. Ross also asks, should there be a cap on the amount of amateur fights that somebody can have? I might take this one. I think the simple answer here is no. I don't think there should be a cap. I think it's up to the fighters how many amateur fights they want to take. It's having those amateur fights under your belt before you make the move to professional ranks is so important. And some fighters may feel more ready than other fighters to make the jump, whether it's sooner or whether they want another couple of fights. It varies. Some people don't even jump into the amateur ranks at all. They go straight into professional after having a storied career, maybe in the kickboxing world or Muay Thai world or Taekwondo or whatnot. But I think it's up to the fighters, and I think this current system works quite well. Leave it up to the fighters, leave it up to the coaches to decide how many fights you have before you're ready to jump into the professional ranks, because that's where you learn your lessons. You learn your lessons in the amateur ranks. You get your wins, you get your losses, and a lot of fighters will tell you that they'll learn more from their losses rather than what they would learn from their wins. So it's important to have that experience. It's important to put yourself through every possible experience that you can have through a fight, that whether it be through weight cuts, whether it be through injuries, whether it be through different preparations and other stuff going on when you are preparing for a fight. And I think that's just the way it is. I think it's perfect the way it is right now. And I was wondering if any of you guys have anything to add to that.
No, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. And maybe some people don't want to turn pro. There could be fighters, like you say. I don't know if you were to look at boxing now. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but the pinnacle of boxing at the amateur is the amateur level. Really, the pinnacle of boxing from a sporting perspective is getting to the Olympics and fighting as an amateur and representing your country and winning a medal. The boxing, the pro side of that is a completely separate world. Maybe we can get to a point where MMA, as a sport, we're a long way away from getting anywhere close to what boxing is. But there are fighters who would just want to go out and represent their country and treating it from a sporting perspective rather than the pageantry and the showmanship of the pro game when there's money involved and selling tickets and all that stuff. So I don't think we should be limiting fighters. Ross
also asked, for each of you, what is one thing that IMMAF can do different next year? And maybe I'll give that to you Caoilte.
Sorry, I muted myself there. It's a good question. I'm not sure. Actually, no, I have one thing. So this is going to play into a question that's going to come later on as well. But don't separate fighters from gyms. If you have two, let's say SBG HQ have two fighters in one division, don't put them on opposite side of the bracket. I would argue to put them in the same site. Don't put them together in the first fight, maybe, but put them in the same bracket. The reason being is so that you don't lose a final. It happened with at the IMMAF competition for a few years where two fighters would get to a final from the same country, and then they would
refuse. Right?
That's the one from the Euros. And like, I was buzzing for that fight. You have no idea how upset I was. It was heartbreaking, but it stopped stuff like that happening. And so IMMAF put this in place where if you are from the same country, you are on the same side of the bracket, and that way you can't ruin a final. And that way, potentially, because it does, in my opinion, it does ruin a final if you just decide not to fight each other after knowingly entering a competition as teammates.
Yeah, that I kind of jump ahead to the question that Andy Hickey asked, which we were going to get to earlier on. It was like, how, like, you kind of answered it there, and he asked, how do you feel about Keith Kyo and Jordan Bradshaw, who were both fighting out with CMAC? They didn't compete in the featherweight final on finals day, and I guess you said that how IMMAF should handle it is just put them on the same side of the bracket. If it was at an IMMAF event, if it was at a world event or a Euros event, they would have no choice but to fight. And I think that, they probably should, if you're going to enter into those tournaments and it happens, as unfortunate as it is and as difficult as it is, I think you have to fight, because that's what the tournament is about. That's what you're going to have to experience at the Worlds. And, that's what IMMAF are trying to do with these national championships. And Andy Ryan spoke to you about that, Andy, about mimicking the World Championships and the Euro Championships and the World Cup and all those big events. You want to mimic them as best as you can at these national championships.
Yeah, it's a tricky one to answer, because I can kind of see the perspectives, but when you're willingly entering a competition, there's a possibility that you can go up against a teammate. So I feel like that conversation should happen before, because ultimately you're potentially taking a spot away in a final from someone who does want to fight. And I know it's not to say that they don't want to fight, but if they don't want to fight their teammates, then maybe they should have maybe behind closed doors spar or something like that in the gym to decide, okay, who's going to go and represent the club, and that way it doesn't have to be, say, a loss in your record, which maybe some people may be worried about, which, you know, is a whole other conversation. But yeah, you know, I don't like to see fights not happening just because of, I guess bureaucratical reasons, or you know, yeah, it's an awkward one, but I kind of get it at the same time, because you don't want to fight a teammate, but it's just a tricky one.
Yeah, it is, and there's no clear answer really of how you can change it other than just accept it as it is for now. And it must be difficult, and obviously it would be maybe good to get one of those guys on and have a conversation about it perhaps, and see what they think about it. So maybe we can make that happen down the line. Thomas Delaney asks, how do you think the large cage affects fighters at SBG HQ? I don't know if it affects fighters all that much. I mean, that's something that they're going to have to deal with in their amateur career and also in their professional career as they're going on. You're going to have different cage sizes at different promotions, and you're going to be training in a smaller cage perhaps. You know, the one benefit that SBG HQ has is the space to be able to put in a full size mixed martial arts cage. And I mean,
how big are the cages at the IMMAF events? Are they smaller?
They are, I'm pretty sure, main cage in the last one was the same size as the one in SBG HQ. I could be wrong. I don't know exact dimensions or all that, but look pretty much very similar.
Would you not get the L ruler out now when you're over there next time?
Do you know what? Now I'll go in there and I'll zoom you, and I'll just get.
Do you know what? I'll send you over a measuring tape, mate.
Do you know one of those circular rolling things that they have to measure the length on the road and stuff like that? Can we bring one of those in your bags for the next tournament, Caoilte, and get
do you
back?
Know those? Do you know those rulers that snap onto your arm that you used to have as a kid? To get one of them.
Oh, I used to love them. Yeah, we could.
We've gone way off here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it affects them. Like it might affect the way, you know, we talk about it in the UFC sometimes about the different size of the cage, the smaller cage in regards to the larger cage, and you know, cage sizes can affect maybe how you cut off the octagon. It can affect you know, maybe the grappling of someone trying to get away from grappling and stuff like that. But
usually the bigger cage would mean less, you know, it's easier to evade the grappling. But you know, if you look at the tournament that we've just seen, it was very grappling heavy, so if anything we saw the opposite.
Yeah, and that brings us to a question from Mark Mooney about the judging criteria. And he asked, is there any difference in the judging criteria between the amateur and the professional ranks? And I know, Andy, you spoke to Ben Cartilage about this.
Yeah, there's no difference. There's no difference at all. Now, maybe Ian yourself or Quiz can talk about maybe, I suppose, the difference in between amateur and pro, and that the rounds are shorter, so that may have an effect on game plans, and thus will have an impact on how, you know, if you're going to a decision, how that'll play out. Yeah,
indeed. I mean, with the 3 5-minute rounds, you know, it gives less time for, you know, when you're grappling and when they're like, obviously we're focusing on damage and impactful damage, and I don't want to butcher the judging criteria too much, but that when you're judging a fight, that's what you're looking for, how close a fight is to being finished, immediately impactful shots. Sometimes my experience from watching the national championships is that we had a lot of grappling positions where there was no damage done on either side. So when there's no damage done on either side, that's when you kind of have to revert back to maybe positional control or something like that. But I mean, we spoke about on the broadcast, when you do get into those clinch positions, or when you do get down on the ground, the importance of landing strikes and getting those strikes off, because that's what's going to score into judges. And the way it might not seem that way, something that I would really like to see changed up in the amateur ranks, and I know that IMMA are probably following the rules of the IMMAF setup, but rather than maybe 3-minute rounds, I'd like to see perhaps 2 5-minute rounds where fighters would have longer to work, and I think that would make it easier to score a fight perhaps for some judges. But I think that we didn't see any too much egregious decisions in the national championships or anything like that. But I mean, it's kind of hard to grasp in trying to get a score of a fight when it's just a 3-round fight. I think the ability to allow an MMA round to progress into 4 or maybe 5 minutes would make it easier for us looking on to score a fight, and maybe for the judges as well. I'd just like to hear your opinion on that, Caoilte.
Yes, I think you said it all, lads. I'm not going to be butchering any criteria here, but spoken from the pro himself. So yeah, no, I'm gonna leave it there. You summed that up perfectly, lads.
Perfect. Moving on to the great man Sean Denny. Inspired by the IMMAF Super Cup, how far away do you think that IMMAF amateur teams are able from like hosting country versus country events? Maybe I'll ask you that, Caoilte. Like, you know, what Sean is alluding to there is the Brave Super Cup, where there's 8 countries kind of forming in a round robin over 8 different weight classes, and whoever wins the most fights will be progressing to the semi-finals and then the finals in a kind of a Ryder Cup style kind of a tournament, if you want to call it that way. How far do you think that we are from seeing more country versus country events?
Probably not too far. Maybe like this, because this is the first one. I think they said it in the broadcast when they're announcing it that there's going to be more opportunities for, because you're going to have to try and find ways to get other countries to have a chance of getting in. So let's say the likes of Australia and New Zealand, who would be looking to get in there at some point. So there could be scope to do it kind of continental, and then that way use it as
like a logistical issue, right? Like a funding issue almost, where it's like, well, how do you put this on? Like, there's not money in MMA. There's no money in, or at least not in the Irish National Federation. So to have one country go over to another, you know, who's paying for this? Who's setting this up? It's a bit. I feel like it's more just a logistical and funding issue rather than anything.
Yeah, I think that if we're going to see it, it's probably going to be that, like something like the Super Cup that might happen maybe once or twice a year, where the IMMAF will kind of use their rankings to see who qualifies for the Super Cup. But like, it's a lot of money. You know, 100,000 prize money put up here by Brave FC, and I mean, yeah, can't see too many organisations willing to front up that money, and I think it might be a bit more down the line than closer, really.
Do you know what? I didn't think of it, the financial side of it. All right, didn't even cross my mind. In terms of competitiveness, I thought, yeah, perfect. But no, that makes complete sense. The actual financial aspect doesn't make it's very difficult unless you have massive backers. Like, maybe, I don't even know what other promotions. You're right, Brave are kind of the lead one. Unless one championship. At the end of the day, it's not a team. Like, although it's a team going over, it's still an individual sport. So, what's the reward? Like, are you just going over for like a friendly? You know, when they're going over to the Super Cup, they're going to win Super Cup. They're going to win 100 grand for Team Ireland. When they're going to the IMMAFs, it's currently the most prestigious amateur event, so they're going to win. They're hoping to win medals. If you're just having a country versus country, well, what are we really fighting for here? That I couldn't just go down to, say, the local show and get on my doorstep without having to travel however far. I don't know. It's an interesting one. The way you look at that, if you're looking at if you're putting the argument of why don't I go down to the local show, I know cost is probably the aspect there, but I guess level, maybe not level, but type of opponents might be the argument there. But look, I think it's a larger discussion, but maybe I don't think it, as you're probably right, lads, I don't think it's probably close anytime soon for financial reasons mainly.
We'll finish off with this one. I'll bring it to you, Andy. Are some fighters being excluded from the IMMAF competitions due to not being able to afford it financially?
Well, so look, the way that it works is, to sign up for the IMMA National Championships, you have to be affiliated with IMMA from a club perspective and also as an individual. So there's that part of it. But then there's also a registration fee. So you do have to pay a registration fee to sign up. Now, I have heard, just being honest, I've heard of a number of fighters who didn't participate as a result of maybe, financial issues or whatever else. So are they being excluded? I don't know if I can... It's a bit of a loaded one, because like I don't know if I could say they're being excluded, but maybe there's a barrier for some fighters socioeconomically, we're getting into a much larger discussion here, to be able to compete. So I don't know how you overcome that, whether it's sponsors getting involved, or I don't really know. So are they being excluded? No, I would say they're not being excluded actively. However, some fighters weren't there because of that issue. So it's, I guess, 6 to 1, half a dozen another, depending on the way you look at it. So I as far as I'm concerned, I want to see every fighter there, and I don't want there to be barriers for people to get there. So maybe that's something that needs to be looked into. I don't know.
For sure, yeah, I agree too. And that kind of rounds up episode 3 of the Auld Triangle, guys. And an action-packed show. We had the two Ciaráns on, Ciarán Clarke and Ciaran Mulholland.
I love how we said, let's keep it under 2 hours, lads. For fuck's sake, we have to keep it under 2 hours, and here we are.
Here we go, and that's what happens. There was a bunch of content that we needed to talk to, and once again, I'd like to talk. I'd like to thank Ciarán Clarke for coming on and joining us ahead of his Bellator fight. I'd like to thank Ciaran Mulholland for coming on ahead of his Cage Conflicts main event. We crowned multiple world champions today during the podcast. We'll be back in another 2 weeks' time to unpack the Bellator Dublin card. We'll unpack Cage Conflict 6. We'll take you through any news stories that have happened in between now and then, and we'll look ahead to the Cage Warriors fight between Paul Hughes and Vucenic. We have the UAE Warriors cards to look forward to as well. We have plenty of talking points, plenty of Irish news coming your way. If you like the podcast...
But just before you go, we missed you. We missed you at the Illinois National Championships. Myself and Caoilte were together, and it would have been good to be there with you.
I know. I would it's one of the toughest things for me not being able to be there in person. But you guys did a great job there. Did some great coverage, and hopefully someday, sooner rather than later, we'll be able to get together and cover some of these events together. But for now, you'll just have to look and wonder and miss me from afar. I'll be overlooking here in Canada. I'll
get
be
a cardboard cut out of you.
Yeah, we may have to get, once the podcast takes off, we might be able to afford a private jet or something like that, and I can fly over and back and stuff like that.
Joe has bullet cut out, so we'll get you an Ian O'Neill one.
There you go. That's what you need. You guys better bring it to every event. Have me there in spirit. But that's why I'm there. I'm there in spirit. Might not be there in person, but I'm there in spirit. But hopefully we'll make it happen sometime down the line. And thanks to you guys for taking the time to come on. And great show. Episode 3 is in the books. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time. If you like the podcast, you can find it on all podcast platforms. You can find it on the SevereMMA YouTube channel. Subscribe, rate, share, help us out, get the word out there. We broke the top 50 in the Czech Republic, so shout out to all the Czech Republic fans. So we're not only Irish MMA, we're a little bit, we're European wide right now, maybe worldwide by episode 4, but time will tell. Hit the subscribe button. Yeah, hit the subscribe button, hit the rate button, hit the share button, tell your friend about it. Lots of stuff to talk about in episode 4. We'll see you guys soon. Thanks for listening in. Take care, everybody.